Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I am with Liz Trotter. Our guest today is Kevin Kunkel, and this is Smart Business
Woo!
Moves.
Woohoo! So excited, Kevin.
All right.
It's
Glad to
been a
be here.
minute. It's been a minute since you've been with us, Kevin.
Been a little while. Last time I was with you all, I was on the outside looking in. Now
Yeah,
I'm on the inside. And
looking in.
it's
Yeah.
a pretty good view. It's a pretty good view, I'll have to say. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't. People don't know you, Kevin. Give a little background. Tell them what you're doing now, what you were doing before.
Yeah, go back to the beginning.
So
Yeah.
going from the beginning, well, currently I'm actually with Castle Keepers House Cleaning. And I took a position with Tom back in late August of this past year. Uh, to be a director of operations, so I have some responsibilities in Charleston and Greenville. We have a mission to. We laid out a growth plan for 2024, and the mission was to increase and scale up the house cleaning business, and somewhat of an aggressive plan, but thus far we've made steady progress to it. You can probably tell that most vividly by our, you take a look at our dashboard and you look at our recurring customer growth. We have had steady growth ever since that time. We've never gone backward at all. And there's a number of contributing factors for that, but most of all, and this is something we're going to talk about today, but most of all, it's because of the people. You know, the people really have engaged and are working to make that happen, and you really, you have to have that. So a little bit else about me. Before I did this, I had done some work with Tom and Castle Keepers on a consulting basis and doing process improvement and documents and some team building and collaboration and things like that. I've always been engaged in assessment and workforce development. I've done that for a long time. The same role, consulting and helping people develop and learn and become better team players, if you will. Before that, I was in another service business. I was in the waste business, and
Oh, yeah.
with a Fortune 500 company, and I was with a private company that we did a startup and sold that. And long before that, I was in the United States Navy, rowed submarines. And, so that kind of gives you just a quick timeline of my different lives, where I've been.
Are you at home right now, Kevin?
Yes.
Because I saw your United States Navy in the background
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. You
I'm like,
see,
I don't remember seeing
there's
that at Castle Keepers.
a submarine up on top, if you can see it. That's actually that was done with a gentleman who was a retired wounded warrior from the Army, from the Gulf War. And he programmed his own, he has a lathe that he built. And
A
he
lake?
built his own little software program and he carved that out. So it's all carved. It's done with a
Ah,
lathe. You can see it up close. Be able to tell. I can send you all a picture of it. But I had it done for my dad, and that's a replica of his World War II Korean War diesel boat. So
okay. It took me a minute because I did not see the submarine when you first said that. And so I was looking at the picture and I was like,
oh
that's
yeah,
a submarine out of the water? And then I thought you said he built his own lake, Lake. I was like, lake for the submarine? And then I was like, lathe. Okay, lathe.
I,
I see it now. I finally see it. Took me a minute.
yeah,
Whew.
yes
So that's
indeed. So,
very cool. I like that. Tom, I see
so
you're off.
anyway, that's
Yeah.
my story.
And Kevin really has been leading some remarkable change within the operation at Castle Keepers, and a lot of it's the people side of the business, and that's kind of a big part of the magic recipe. And I learn a lot hanging out with Kevin. He has a gift.
I think, can we talk about just one more thing about that though, too, Tom? I think it is also, well, not taken away from Kevin at all. And actually I guess I'm kind of adding to that. It's something that you said at Foundations was what you told him, like what you wanted. I mean, I feel like that's a huge part of his success is you got out of the way.
You want to share what I said at Foundations?
So you said that what you told him was what I want is what you tell it. It was
Hmm.
only two things, right? Two things.
Well, I like to grow the business, but I
Safe.
don't. I want to be safe. I don't want to get sued. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go broke.
And I'd like to make more money.
Yeah.
Make some money. Right.
There's I guess part of it is, and you know, I've had an opportunity to make a lot of mistakes over the years, and I try to learn. Maybe I've learned a little bit through some of that, but we work with a lot of people, Liz, and sometimes they hire really talented people, but they don't really get out of the way and let them do what it is that they're capable of doing and what they were hired to do. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's my point, right? Like you're like most people would think you, Tom, are very capable, very smart guy. And why would you ever, like in their mind, abdicate, right, to this other person? But instead, you have empowered him to do his best work. It sounds like. Does that seem accurate, Kevin? Would you say that that's an accurate assessment?
Yeah, the thing about, I guess, Tom's relationship, our relationship, when we first started, and we had a couple of little, maybe grudge matches, if you will, but healthy, okay?
Mhm.
Um, and along with Tom is saying, he gave me a very simple task and a goal, right?
Yeah.
So I knew what that was. I know how to carry that out,
Yeah.
but it might not be the same way someone else would carry it out.
Not
But
even Tom.
I have to start from what I know, but more so just a clean slate. Let's just take this now and build this. We do have a foundation, so we don't have to worry about that. But now let me take this and do these things that I know how to do so this can work. But not only grow it, the important thing is you have to keep in mind that you have to be able to sustain this
Yeah.
once you get that growth, and at every stage of the growth may require different talent and it may require different capabilities of people. So you have to be cognizant of that all along the way while you're going through this whole scaling process, because you don't want to get left behind and be, you know, over here and now instead of having 260 customers, I have 520 customers, and I'm still cleaning homes. I'm just cleaning more, but there is a little bit more involved. And so you have to have people who are willing to engage, who are agile, who, um, they can be doing multiple things. And so that's what you start to look for. And we were very fortunate because we were sitting right on some people in our organization that I don't think we knew we had. And so we did some assessments, I did some observation, I picked up on certain things, and that's who we brought into the fold as being part of this new team, if you will.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Kevin? What did that look like? Who'd you have? What kind of skills were there that were maybe missed?
I think when I don't know how many folks out there are familiar with, the disc and the disc profile, right? But prior, we were somewhat heavy on the S and C, okay?
Yeah.
So the S and C does not lend itself necessarily real well to growth or to take that mindset, right? It's more conservative. Uh, And you have to have that for balance. You can't have everybody going out and, just
Hiding.
saying, hey, we're all gonna jump off I won't say that. That's not a good analogy at this time. But, we all don't want to jump in the lake together, right? Um, Somebody needs to know how deep it is and, how the temperature of the water, all of that. So anyway, I did my assessments with our work ready assessments, right? Which address hard skills, math, reading, data analysis, right?
Yeah.
And then I said, hey, we've had only people in leadership roles before take DISC. Let's get some of these other people that we're looking at bringing up, let's get them the DISC and let's see where they fall. Well, guess what? We identified some I's in there,
Mhm.
and we didn't have I's before.
Mhm.
And so now, we had that, and they were pretty high I's as well. Well, that brought a new dynamic to the team. And along with that high I, we also had people who scored very high on the academic portion of those work ready skills.
Nice.
So now we knew we had people that help fit the dynamic better and could help us do what we want to do in growing. But we also had people who had more capacity to learn and to take on more responsibilities. So, those things were all going on at the early stages to set the stage to where we're at now. And so, I would say, you do have to do some of that. It's important, it's like Liz, it's like your 3 word, your meaning, measure, matter, right? I mean, you have to measure some things, on the front end. And you're saying, gosh, based upon what I see here in this measurement, now I can take this and I can go here. And, and then those other 2 components, start to fall into place because now you're trying to fit something that matters to that person into the proper place. You don't have somebody where that doesn't matter to them and they're never going to be motivated by it.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have a better fit for that. So I think that's an important part. And then really from there, it's, my thing is the empowerment. You mentioned about, Tom giving me the ability to do what I needed to do. So, I mean, in turn, I've always believed in, learning to let employees lead, empowering them. But it's more than just saying that, you have to walk the talk with that. And that means you have to give people opportunities to make decisions and you have to allow them to make some mistakes. And as Tom said, as long as it fits in with the framework of not going to jail and getting sued and all that, we want you to make some mistakes, but we want you to build confidence in being able to make decisions. Because if we want to groom you to grow into a higher position, if you will, and more responsibility, you have to be able to do that. And you have to have a willingness to do that. Many times people who are doing task related work or have always done task related work, that's a whole new concept for them. They don't, and you have to teach them, and you teach them through giving them opportunities, about how to do that, whether that's with a personnel decision, with a policy decision, with allowing them, I allow those the 2 ladies we have now, they facilitate the training. They make the agenda. I'll give them some things that I'll say, I think you ought to look at this, consider it. They'll include it on there, but it doesn't have my name on it. It has their name on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in turn building the rest of that team. That team is now starting to look at them as being okay. And, we're getting some buy-in because we've had ladies show up. We did a Mardi Gras meeting. We bought a king cake, we did that whole thing. And the last weekend, the ladies wanted to do while you all were over at our site. They wanted to go to Cracker Barrel. So they went out to Cracker Barrel and they had a team meeting. Of course, some of the ladies have children. They wanted to bring their children. They brought their children. Everybody was good. There was a lot of good interaction. There was good fellowship, and there was business conducted. And so, those are things I think that at once upon a time at Castle Keepers had taken place, but it had gotten away from that. And so I think in bringing that back for some of our veteran technicians, they're like, oh man, yeah, this is good stuff. This is what we should be doing, you know? And then that helps the new people to want to engage as well. So,
Kevin, last week at Foundations, Liz and I were sharing that wouldn't it be great if we were able to execute on all of the things that we know that we should be executing on? And we kind of admitted, no, we did admit that, we
Straight up.
yeah, aren't always the best at that either. And there were a lot of people that were surprised. It's like, what? It's like, well, yeah, we're just as messed up as anybody else. And, I've been busy doing this May Central thing. And I'm kind of took my eye off the ball, and maybe for rational reasons. I don't know. You can't be everywhere doing everything, and we slid on the housekeeping side, but we're on our way back.
Clawing your way back up. Awesome. Well, I love that segue into our 6 lessons from Ted Lasso, because I love me some Ted Lasso.
So have you watched the series?
Oh yeah.
So for those of you out there who've never watched Ted Lasso, I would encourage you to tune in and take from it what you will, but you'll actually be taken when you watch the show by some of the insights that are laid out there, and some of them are very subtle, and some of them are right in your face. But the whole story really surrounds itself, I guess, around 6 different lessons, that come out. One is be a goldfish. Well, what's it got to do with being a goldfish? I didn't see any goldfish in the story, but being a goldfish is the happiest creature on earth. It has a very small mind. It doesn't remember what happened from one second to the next. So it just keeps moving on. Whatever's in front of it is the best thing it's ever seen. So therefore, that meaning, if you take that, is don't dwell on your mistakes. Don't learn from them, but don't dwell on them. And don't let them stop you from moving forward. And once I don't want to spoil the show for everybody, but once you start watching the show, you'll see.
It's so good.
You'll see that Ted Lasso is really, he is taking measures to heal himself from some things he's been through in his life. And so he's found out that, hey, I'm doing these things, but while he's doing that, he's also transferring that sort of thing over to this soccer team, right? And trust me, he's getting some crazy looks. When he takes the guy who's the lowest guy in the locker room, who's picking up the uniforms and taking it to the laundry and all that, he starts asking him about what he thinks about things, and what he thinks about this play and how to play the game. The guy's just taken back. But that young man had some profound feedback to give, which is another lesson, that's there, is get feedback no matter where it comes from, because you have no idea how valuable that feedback could be, whether it's from the lowest person on the totem pole or the highest or anywhere in between. So, very important, because that, as you watch the show again, then this person kind of transforms and is now in a better position than what they had been previously, and that also does things to other people in the organization. They get excited about that. And
It's
maybe they have
motivational,
a better life.
inspirational.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what else? Taking letting employees lead, um, giving people the opportunity to grow, encouraging them to grow. Another lesson. Let me just pull this up. Let's see.
So one thing, even at foundations, going back to like getting feedback and appreciating feedback that you get, we had a participant at foundations that was brand new to business and had never cleaned anything before. And I think we've had one, maybe two other people in the same position in the past in all of these years. And we never really heard much about the needs of this segment of the people that were coming. And boy, did he have some good feedback for us or what, Tom?
Yeah, it was a different perspective.
Yeah,
But
fresh. So fresh. We're like,
yeah,
some easy to make some changes too. Some changes that could be really impactful that we would have never been able to, we never did see or think of. Right? This was Foundations 13. We never did see it or think. We're just like, that's so obvious. When
right.
he said it, we're like, how have we missed that? What? But so impactful. So really appreciate feedback.
I mean, that was Danning. I mean, he comes from a different world. He's knows a lot about digital marketing. He's like a marketing professional, and he kind of grew up around the cleaning business, and knows something about the industry. But he's got some innovative thoughts, and he's going to do really well. He's going to do really well in the house cleaning industry.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that's tough because you you can't possibly have all of the right answers, right?
Yeah.
You can't possibly have it. And there's people that see things that we don't see. We don't see. We're not out in the field.
Yeah.
And we had a thing. I'll tell you this. I don't even know if Tom knows this, but about a month ago, the other thing that I've done along these same lines now is I'm bringing in all of our new hires who reached their 30-day point.
Mhm.
I buy them donuts and I sit them all down, and I am engaged in this part, and I ask them for their feedback. How things are going? What do they feel our culture's like? What could we do differently? Are there things we could improve on? Are they having issues with anything? And we just kind of have a little discussion, open discussion session. And I do my best to encourage them that nothing will happen to them, no matter what they say. But I'm able to lure them in with chocolate and other items, so I can do this. But
I remember that. You always have chocolate.
one of our ladies had said to us, one of our new ladies had said, I don't know, my wrists are starting to hurt. She said, I know I had some issues with carpal tunnel at one time, but then we talked about, making sure you wore a brace and that sort of thing. And she said, but in the showers with that brush, that's the thing that really, gets me, when I'm doing the grout and all that. She said, but I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but she said, I went out and bought one of these power brushes. She bought it on her own. It's a little power brush, right? I said, you see that thing? All right. So I got back with Megan and Letitia. I said, what do you think? Megan said, well, I've used one of those from time to time. I have to be honest with you. It's all right. I said, what do you think if we get 3 of them and we try them out? Let's find out what we think the best one is, the best price. We'll test it. We'll see how it holds up. We'll see how the technicians like it. And then we'll see if that's something maybe we want to incorporate as part of our toolkit, right? So I went ahead and purchased 3 of them. I think they were like $32 or something a piece. And they're rechargeable. They come with the whole thing. You just recharge them in. So we've had them out from our oldest technician who's been there 25 years to our brand new ones. And everybody seems to like it. So, because, when you have a tiled ceiling in a shower, right? Before we can't really do that, but this thing extends, I think like 4 or 5 feet. And so you can do the whole scrubbing of all that and you can get everything off. And I mean, I would have never known that if this
I've
young
never
lady
seen
hadn't brought
this thing. I'm dying to, Denise. I see you, Denise, over there. Go, or Dawn, actually, somebody go investigate, y'all. Find us this thing.
Yeah, I'll send it out to everybody. That
Yeah, sounds awesome. But yeah,
it
how would we
seems like,
know?
yeah,
You had no
something
idea.
that works. But again, it's just going back to what you were saying, Liz, too, about the feedback and the Ted Lasso thing. That it's really important. Don't ever forget about asking for it, and
Yeah.
letting people tell you so that they're comfortable. You have to create an environment where they're comfortable enough to tell you those things too. And not, but
So we
let's
did
go back
different
to
ones.
Ted for a minute. And another one of his lessons is it's known as leaning into vulnerability. So, and I, talked to Tom about this. I think you've all talked about this. You have to know, right? You have to know your limitations. I'm good at certain things and I'm not good at other things. So I know I have to find people where my strengths aren't there. I need them to fill that void for me so that I can keep doing what I do real well. And then we can tap into their capabilities and do that. And, if you go back to old Ted, Ted does that. Ted asks a lot of people a lot of questions. He doesn't care whether he's asking the ownership or, the
Janitor.
guy in the locker room. Doesn't matter. Other teams, other coaches. He's always, not only getting feedback, but he's trying to adjust for where he's vulnerable or his weaknesses are. So I think that's another lesson there that is gained, um, from him. And if you look at, for those of you who have seen the show, and I just spoke of this a moment ago, but it's inspiring confidence to those around you. And, so you say, well, how do you do that? Well, there's probably a number of different ways you can do that. I gave you an example of giving people the ability to make decisions, right? And build that confidence up. Other ways, as Ted does it in the soccer arena. I don't know, Liz, if you remember, and they brought this young guy. He's a little guy, and he'd never played before. And remember the prima donna, Chris. He was trying to do it all, and then Chris got hurt, and they brought this little guy in. He'd never played, and no one was sure about it. And Ted's like, "You're in, man. You're it.
Go.
You're gonna go
I can
do."
just picture him.
And it was sink or swim, right? He's gonna
Yeah.
put him out there. And hey, that was good.
Yeah.
He was a good little dude. Uh, so I think if you want to grow your team, if you want to develop bench strength in your team, and even if you want to help people develop better relationship skills dealing with customers or customer service, you have to allow them opportunities so they can build their confidence with that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of uncertainty, and what that does, I think what that does is, well, because the first thing I'll always ask somebody, they'll come to me and they'll say, well, Kevin, I've got this, and this is going on. And I said, well, what would Letitia do? What would you do, Letitia? Well, tell me what you would do. And they'll tell me, and I'll say, that sounds good. Do it. And they don't know what to say because they've not had that opportunity, you know?
Yeah.
And the more that you do that, the more that they're conditioned, the more that now they feel comfortable. And what does that do for the organization? Well, if we can make decisions more quickly where something's happening, that only benefits the whole organization.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, there's not delays with things. And so I think that's, you know, another important lesson that definitely comes through. And you want your, you know, we want our team members to be able to have some of that decision-making authority when they're in front of customers, and not to always have to say, well, I have to get with the office on that.
Right.
So we want to try to work toward that. And finally, it's really, I think, two important things, and these are not like brand new earth-shattering things, but it's doing the right thing, right? Doing the right thing when no one's looking. We've all heard that.
Yeah.
So, you know, Ted's like that in his show, right? And he teaches his team about that. And he teaches them about that through practice. And, you know, Ted is a guy who will put his arm around you and he'll identify this. And at the same time, he's a guy that will put you to the test, right? And make you think, well, okay, really? He's really going to make me do this. So I think that that is a very important aspect of, you know, what we're talking about, and you know, the influencing of that, which some of that has to do, which what I wanted to tie in is, and I've shared this with you before, Liz, you've seen this before, but for those of you who haven't looked at this is mindset, right? Dr. Carol DeWitt. Well, a lot of the stuff that you see in Ted Lasso has a lot to do with mindset, right? For instance, that fella, I think his name's Chris, who he's the prima donna, right? So he's the best. He can't get any better. He's better than everybody else. Well, Dr. DeWitt in this book talks about well, growth mindset versus closed mindset. Talks about those who are gifted and talented as they're coming up through school. Well, gifted and talented have been told so many times that they're gifted and talented, they feel they don't have a need to get any better.
Enough to work.
So they develop a closed mindset. And so a good example of that is that guy who was the prima donna. He had that closed mindset. He's the best in his opinion. There's nobody, he couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
But then something happened to him. And he got injured. And Ted didn't want him back on the team. And his old team didn't want him back. And his agent set him up to go on this, you know, Bachelor show, right?
I forgot about this episode.
And he was a finalist. And the young lady didn't choose him, shot him down.
Yeah.
He was devastated. You know, no one could ever do that to him.
Yeah.
And he was on the verge of having, you know, a breakdown. Well, he got to that point and his mindset started to change. And then that's when Ted, after having a discussion, realized, okay, at this point I can bring you back because now, you know, you're clay that I can work with and I can develop you. You're willing to be developed. And sometimes, you know, we'll encounter people like that, you know, that this is the way I've always done it. I'm going to keep doing it this way. This is what I want. So sometimes we have to take measures to help them see it a different way. And there's a lot of different techniques to that. I mean, you know, we probably can't go to the extreme that some of the things that you could do in the sporting world or the military, but there are some other things that I think we can do, and a lot of it is, Ted cares, and at the end of the day, he's pretty kind. That's his nature.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think if you can create that in your culture, in your environment, and you really talk about it, and we started to do that now in our interviews. We're talking about what our culture is, and this was just serendipitous, complete luck. There was a top workplace award, and I happened to come across this, and it was an intergauge survey. So we brought that survey in, and I launched it for all the employees of both branches. Well, I didn't know what was going to come of it, but I wanted to get whatever the employees were going to say, and they had their questions were all listed out. I got to preview them and everything before. Sent it out. There was a really good thing. We did a launch that had good marketing in front of it, and I would send blasts out to the employees of Church and Bill. We had an 80% response rate on the survey,
Nice.
which is really good.
Yeah.
But then our responses were such that they nominated us for the top workplace award in South Carolina for small business. And the comments in there that were given, we actually took our comments now and built, because here we are today, right? And we've had hyper, right? Lizzie, I think you were a part of that.
Yeah.
Were you not? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've taken what came out of that survey and have built now, here are our core values today. Here's what you said. All of you folks said this about who we are. Now it's time for us to embrace it and to tell everybody who's joining our organization that this is what we're about and this is what we expect.
Nice.
And part of that is friendly, it's positive, it's kindness. And those are things that, we can't just say those words, then we have to be that every day when we're dealing with people, So I'm trying to set the stage with that, and we'll see where that goes. I mean, we've had people. I had to terminate a young lady a week ago, and I've never had this happen before. And she told me, I just want to say this. She said, I have never worked for an organization that's so caring and considerate as this organization. Well, okay. You really mean that?
Yeah.
That would have
What's
less
that?
impact if you hadn't said previously that the revenue has been growing every month. So I'm like, yes, growing our company and people are loving where we're working.
Yeah.
And I love that piece.
But here's the other thing, just for anybody out there listening, and I've always said this. I've been around, for a while, and all of these different things that I've learned along the way, I'm able to put together. So I encourage anyone who might be new to operating a business and understanding it, that if you don't have the things that you see that Liz puts out, these different books and these different materials, that you really need to consider engaging in that, because that's how you will become successful. That knowledge is invaluable. If you don't possess that, you'll struggle. And so I just think it's very important that all of these things, they're all things that I've always read, and you can't treat any one of those things as a dot on the wall. All of these different things have to be integrated together, from mindset to where we're going to go with, blue ocean. And before I leave out, Ted's last fundamental lesson is never stop learning. Always be learning. We should be learning every day. We should take an opportunity to try to learn something new every day. I don't care if that's a word or what it might be. So, those things, I think when you watch that show, when you look at mindset, and then as we segue out to this, so how do we then use everything that we were just talking about and create this? Because this is how we should be looking at creating competitive advantage. We don't want to be out there competing with every other lowballer and discounting and be known for that. We want to be known for something else, and we want to carve out our own niche in the very same market we're in, but we want to be known for something. But if we take the time and create the right culture and environment, we stand a much better chance of delivering upon that service. So I kind of drawn out at Castle Keepers a red ocean where we are now and a blue ocean where we'd like to be. And so my latest has been a campaign we launched last week. In that campaign, I put nothing about discounts, specials. I just put spring is sprung. Just a little blurb in there. The call to action is, we have some great spring specials going on. Contact, to see about, right?
Mhm.
Well, people have no idea what that special is, but our special could very well be what we quote them, but they don't know that. And so I think we have to get back to how we create that, how we come across what we're doing out in the field. We have to do a much better job still of creating a much more vibrant referral network from our customers. I think that we're missing that. We still have to do a better job in terms of our Google reviews. We get a lot of good scorecards, but we got to leverage scorecards. And that's another mission that we're on, is how can we better leverage those? But this blue ocean strategy, it's not, Tom introduced me to that book and I took it and I immediately went in because it's a Harvard Business Review thing. And that's where I've gotten bits and pieces of my information along the way. But, as I started looking at the various examples from this blue ocean strategy, it struck me that, we don't have to go out there and fight with everybody else. We can there's probably available market share out there for us
Oh, yeah.
in our particular market that we really need to better focus on that share of the market. Not that they're using somebody else maybe, but that, there's people moving in here all the time, that we appeal to them. And how is that we better appeal to them? Well, here, if I go to Daniel Island, Charleston,
Go where?
Daniel Island.
It's a community here in Charleston.
Yeah. It's pretty upscale. It's a very upscale community. It exists in its own bubble, if you will. And we have 4 customers out there. We should probably have 40 customers out there. So I'm on a mission to do some other targeted marketing out there. I've met some good folks out there. Did an event in the fall out there. And to help create this blue ocean, that's part of that strategy, because now we're really going to go after people that aren't looking for the discount. They're looking for the quality. And again, you never know unless you try something. This week, we had a customer who asked, could we come out and take a look at the home before they bought, right? We already have a first time in process we put in place. We'll make contact. And if we get a bad feeling we may go out and look at it, but we haven't really gone out to homes now. Well, Letitia went out to the home. She met with people. She did a tour of the home, the husband's alpha dog, so to speak. He was comfortable enough with Letitia to let the wife walk him around this house, fairly large home, nice home. And the lady said, well, we're looking at a couple of other companies, but she said, if I have anybody come in this house and clean it, I want somebody like you, Letitia, who's knowledgeable, who's professional, and who could take care of our home. So Letitia came back and told me that. She said, well, what's going to happen? So she's going to call us back. I said, but what if she doesn't call us back? What's our next step? So no, she's going to call back. So 4:30, Letitia leaves for the day, and 10 minutes later, this lady calls back.
She calls back.
It was actually the husband. I had already given the salesperson some latitude on pricing, just in case. I know I'm contradicting myself about discounting, but I'm like, okay, if they're hedging, we can do a little bit for them, okay? Nope, it wasn't necessary because the guy was intent on paying the full price because they wanted Letitia or somebody like her to be in their home, clean that home, and do it on a recurring basis. So, I don't know if we're on to something there or not. And, we may do that in some other different scenarios, because if that means creating a blue ocean where we're getting these customers who we really want, who are paying for value, for quality, then so be it. Because I think when we can make those types of margins on the clean, we'll more than make it up. But so I think that's, my message, I guess, is that all of these things, from when you see Ted Lasso to when you see the open and closed mindset to wanting to create a blue ocean, and then everything in between, all of those things have to make a picture in your mind of how that looks. And if you can't see it, you need to just draw it out. Draw out, what does this look like? How do these things fit together? Because if you try to do them singularly, I just think you won't have good luck with it. So you really have to have a strategy of how I'm going to take these things and meld them together.
Well, can you explain a little bit, Kevin, for anybody that hasn't read Blue Ocean Strategy? They might not even know what that means. What do you mean by blue ocean, red ocean? What is this?
So, a red ocean is the way in which business is typically conducted. So let's go in a business to business environment, right? So we're going to go out and, there's a lot of talk in the business. I used to be in the waste business. There was always a lot of talk about market share. Who had what market share? And it was like, having the trophy if you could gain whatever market share, right? So, well, what do you have to do to get that market share? Because unlike the house cleaning business, there's only a set amount out there, real. So you got to go to battle with your competitors, and a number of things you can do, but a lot of times it boils down to you end up competing on price. And are you really, at the end of the day, what are you gaining? Okay, I gained market share, but did I lose margin? Could I have less market share and better margin? So the red ocean is getting away from that old school pounding away at trying to compete with everybody else and what they're doing, instead of trying to look at a blue ocean within the same market, the same business, but how do we offer it? And if you'll see once you get into this book, and you can go online and see this guy who's a conductor. He's of an orchestra, right? and I think he was in Spain maybe. And so going right to the concert to see the orchestra play, usually, people are wearing tux and tails, and it's a very high level
Yeah,
affair, and,
big
it's kind of
money.
stuffy. In 2024, it's really not what people are looking for. There's probably a very small audience for that. But what if we could take some of that very same music, and what if we could make it look like a rock concert? What if we could have a lighted stage? What if we could have a larger venue? What if we could use color and smoke? And what if we could put the orchestra not in black and white, but what if we could put them in vibrant colors? And what if we could have dancers, but we could still play that wonderful music from Beethoven and Bach and all of that, right? That's what this guy did. And, he just took what used to be and just created something that people wanted because he expanded his market. He was now attracting teenagers, he was attracting young adults, he was attracting still some of the old guard. So before, when you were really just attracting more of the old guard, now you had many more people because, just think about that in an orchestra, right? Instruments alone, you're paying musicians. It's who funds all of that, right? So you have to find a way. He had to find a way of how could he generate revenue, and he did, and that became his blue ocean. And there's a lot of examples out there. I mean, there are product examples and there are service examples. If you go through, you'll be able to find those. And I think for everybody as an individual, everyone has to figure out, what is that for us? And I did for a couple of months. I was like, I don't know. I like, would this look like? And then as we started to get those survey results back, and I started reading a little more into it, and I started to look at where we want to go and where we want to go in our market, then I said, okay, I think this is what we want to try and get to. Now, how do we get there? And that's the stage we're in.
Got a little clarity, but still got work to do and trying to figure it out the rest of the way. That there's a story in that book that really struck me, similar to your orchestra story, was about the circuses. How back in the day, circus cost a quarter, right? And they were like, how can we, upgrade the circus? And now, nobody pays a quarter to go to Cirque du Soleil, right?
Right.
The new circus. You're feeling good if you can get out of there for $55. So,
Right.
And the
right,
paradigm was you couldn't have a circus if you didn't have elephants and
yeah,
tigers and all the expensive
yeah.
stuff, and they got rid of all of that.
And now here we have a brand new type of circus, but making a lot more money without the thing that we thought we had to have.
Right. Right.
Yeah, crazy.
Exactly right.
We talked a little bit about this idea at Foundations too, when on our last day, Tom, when we were talking about, what do we call that session? State of the
The future of the industry.
future of the industry. Yeah. And we just sort of try to blue ocean idea things, right? Like what could things look like? How could they be different? It's hard if you're not used to thinking that way. And if you're used to grinding and working in your business all day, doing the same old thing every single day, it's really hard to think differently. What else is there? What could there be? It's tough.
Right. Yeah.
In some
That's
regards, I
very
think
true.
an advantage that Kevin has, he's coming at this from a little different perspective. He
Yeah.
hasn't spent the last 30 years in the house cleaning industry.
Yeah. And lots of different perspectives, right? Navy, that's so different, right? So many different perspectives, and that they all play together. That for me, that is always like, that's where I like to get my ideas from. That outside of what we're doing right now. It's just, there's so much more that we could be doing. It's such a,
Right.
so many lost
Right.
opportunities.
Right. Yeah. And you know, again, it's reiterating the how many of these people that we have in our different organizations, and that could even be, you know, across from where, you know, some of your groups are. And I think some of that happens in some of your groups, Liz, where, you know, people are sharing different feedback and different information and things that, you know, that they're doing. And I think there's a wealth of knowledge out there that could be tapped into for people to maybe better understand. You know, it allows people to have somewhat of an epiphany to go, gosh, I never thought of it that way before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a big part of why companies can grow so much bigger, so much faster, so much easier now. You know, there's just a big body of shared knowledge, and there's so much more support for everybody.
Right. Right.
And you know, part of it's the 4 minute mile thing. Nobody could do it until somebody did it, and then it's like, okay, this is doable. I mean, people are
Oh,
going into it with a different expectation now.
and back to that fixed mindset and growth mindset, right? Carol Dweck's, right? And you can't do it. What's the Henry Ford saying as well? If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. That's not right, but basically the same idea.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's the, you know, it's that whole confidence thing. And that, you know, for a lot of years when I was doing assessments, I would just literally tell people, look, you know this content, you know the subject. No, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do know it. You know how good you know it. You know how much faith I have in you. I'm going to pay for you to go take the test tomorrow. No. Yeah. And again, so you're creating confidence, but you're giving them that push. You know, they go take the assessment. I passed. Well, why are you surprised? I'm not surprised. I knew you were going to
I knew you
pass.
could do it.
You know, so you know, and then when they have to go do the next one, they're like, okay, I'm ready to take that one. You know, and it's, you know, I think in part two, which I'm fortunate, I know they're about out of time, but you know, you have to be willing to teach and mentor and coach to be successful in these endeavors, you know, and what we call managing a business. Because if you leave that part out, you're gonna struggle.
Yeah. You got to be like Ted Lasso.
I have never seen Ted Lasso, but I'm inspired to do so
Oh
now.
my gosh, it's so good.
Well, when you see me on Zoom next, I have the Ted Lasso locker room as my background, my virtual background.
I'm dying to see that. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. Love me some Ted. He's so good. And you'll laugh too. So, right? It's
Yeah.
funny and inspiring, and you love Ted so much. Oh, when you're watching, you're like, oh, just love him.
Well,
Such a fine
Kevin, this was good at a lot of levels, and I see the wonderful work you're doing, and it's appreciated by a lot of people. You know, it's we're making change to the benefit for a lot of folks, and Ted Lasso tie-in is kind of cool, and
Yeah,
that lessons learned there too. So we are at the top of the hour.
we are. We are. Yeah. Thanks so much, Kevin. And you saved my bacon here today too, right? I made a big mistake, but guess what? Goldfish, goldfish over here.
That's right.
Goldfish.
That's right.
That's right. Goldfish.
Thank you again,
y'all.
Kevin. We
Thanks,
will
Kevin.
be back next Wednesday, 5 o'clock Eastern.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.